Hey, it's Big Rick. Welcome to the Rock Talk Studio, where I find you that next great rock and roll book or documentary to check out. This is the podcast that reviews, previews, and most importantly, recommends to you the good stuff. Let's plug in and see what I've got for you this week. If you've been listening to the show, you know that I like to do a spotlight title every week. So every week I give you a recommendation for a rock and roll book or documentary. This week, I'm going to be trying something a little bit different. It actually came to me from a subscriber to the Rock Talk Studio newsletter I call the Rock Talk Studio Blast. And they asked me for recommendations for a couple of artists. So I thought, well, why don't I do a greatest hits show where I'll take a bunch of artists. I've been reviewing books and docs for 3 years now, so I've got enough in the catalog to refer you to. So they're going to be newer books or docs. And I'm going to kick it off today with one of my favorite bands of all time, and that is the Allman Brothers, because there's some really great Allman Brothers stuff that came out over the last couple of years. And I'm going to start by talking about one of my favorite books, and that is called Play All Night by Bob Beattie, and it looks at Duane Allman and the journey to Fillmore East. This book was not published from a big publisher, so it didn't have a big budget, so it didn't get a lot of attention, though it really should. Bob Beattie is a great writer, he's a historian, and he really knows how to dig deep for the facts on this subject. And what I liked about this book specifically was it looks at Duane Allman and his vision and what he was trying to achieve with the Allman Brothers and what type of sound he was trying to get. And you get to see how all the pieces fit together and how that led up to that historic moment at Fillmore East. Beattie, without a doubt, is a fan. And I like that being a fan, he could inject his enthusiasm for the band and his insights, but he also has enough research here to provide tremendous depth on this story. This is a great book. Check it out. Play All Night, Duane Allman and the Journey to Fillmore East by Bob Beattie. You can't mention the Allman Brothers without mentioning Alan Paul. Alan Paul actually is the only person I've ever interviewed on the Rock Talk Studio. I interviewed him for his book that came out a couple years ago called Brothers and Sisters. This is a great book for a couple of reasons, and one of them is the cultural look that Alan Paul took. So you're talking about the 70s, you're talking about right after Duane died, right after Barry died, and the formation of the new band, and what that was all about. You've got stories about Cher, you got stories about Jimmy Carter, you got stories about Jerry Garcia's relationship with Dickie Betts, Watkins Glen. There's a chapter on the Watkins Glen concert. This is a tremendous book. Again, Alan Paul knows the Allman Brothers. He interviewed them many times. He wrote that amazing book called One Way Out. So if you're looking for great depth about the Allman Brothers, these two books, Play All Night and Brothers and Sisters, is where I would head for Allman Brothers recommendations. Next up is another one of my favorite artists, without a doubt. So let's do some Tom Petty, because there's been some great Tom Petty stuff that came out all over the last couple of years. And I'm going to start with this book called Conversations with Tom Petty by Paul Zollo. Paul went up to Tom Petty's house for a couple of years on a Saturday and just sat in his living room and talked music with him. And that's what this book is like. It's like you're just sitting there with Tom and you're talking about all kinds of great subjects, his whole career, all the albums, all the songs, all the people that he met, his life stories. It is a tremendous book. I call this book a treasure many times when I was reviewing it. And I really agree. It's a treasure. It's a fabulous book. This is the book that I recommend to all Tom Petty fans right off the bat. Conversation with Tom Petty. This is the one you want to get. And this year brought us another Tom Petty book that is a must-have, and that is the new Mike Campbell memoir. And that is Heartbreaker, the book he wrote with Ari Serdoval. This is like the other side of the Tom Petty story. Mike Campbell shares things that I never thought he would ever share. It's a very personal, it's very deep, it's very honest, it's a very open memoir. Mike's a very humble guy, but you really get to see how he contributed to Tom Petty's world and Tom Petty's music. I love this book. It is the number one book on my list of top 5 books this year. It has been since the day it came out. I can't say enough good things about this one. So Mike Campbell's memoir, Heartbreaker, high on my recommendation list for Tom Petty stuff. If you're looking for a cool documentary about Tom Petty, I know there's the fantastic one that's out there, the 4-hour documentary about Petty's career called Running Down a Dream. But this year they released Tom Petty's Heartbreaker's Beach Party. It was Cameron Crowe's first film, And Cameron Crowe goes out on the road with Petty and the band right around the time of the Long After Dark album. So they're just taking off. They're just starting to peak. They're just trying to understand what fame feels like. It's a really loose film. There's a lot of stuff on the tour bus. I really enjoyed this documentary. It's really cool. So that's a great add-on. So if you're looking for cool Tom Petty stuff, I would check out that doc. All right, coming up next, we're going to do Springsteen, got some really cool Grateful Dead stuff, and Bob Dylan. Before we jump into those next couple of recommendations, I do want to tell you that I'm doing a book giveaway right now, and that book is a huge coffee table style book, over 500 pictures in it, a retrospective look at 50 years of Iron Maiden. The book's called Infinite Dreams. I can't wait to give this book away, send it to the winner, and have them open up the box, because I guarantee once you pull this thing out, you will be stunned and amazed. I couldn't believe how heavy it was. It's about 6 pounds. And how great it is of a book. So if you're an Iron Maiden fan, this one is definitely for you. To get in for a chance to win the book, all you've got to do is subscribe to my newsletter. The subscription is free. The newsletter comes out once a month. Like I mentioned earlier, it's called the Rock Talk Studio Blast. It covers everything in the world of rock and roll. It kind of is an extension of what I'm doing here on the podcast. So if you want to know about new releases, you want all the dates of when they're coming out, you want to know about the top 5 books and docs of the year, that's in there. All the book buzz and doc news is in this. I'm going to drop the link to the subscription button in the show notes. So if you want to get in on this Iron Maiden book giveaway, sign up for the Rock Talk Studio Blast, and I'll hook you up. All right, let's jump into the second half of the show. I'm going to talk about Bruce, the Grateful Dead, and Bob Dylan, and I'm going to throw in a bonus artist, and that's the Beatles, because there's just too much cool stuff that came out over the last couple of years in regards to the Beatles. There is the great Paul McCartney book, kind of his pseudo memoir that he wrote a couple years ago. It was actually the first podcast review I ever did. It's about the book called The Lyrics. Tremendous book where Paul McCartney breaks down different stories wrapped around his songs. Every chapter is a song title. He goes from A to Z. He picks out songs throughout his career and talks about his memories, how he wrote them, just different stories. It is a tremendous book. I was really blown away, and it kind of kicked off the Rock Talk Studio podcast. So if you're looking for really cool Paul McCartney book, The Lyrics is where I would go. If you wanted a cool John Lennon book, I would go to the book that came out last year. It's called Mind Games. And that book is predominantly a picture book, but it has a lot of reflection on the Mind Games album and the studio, the recording, the writing of the songs. The pictures in it are incredible. A lot of first-time shots, a lot of great personal items are in there from John Lennon. That's where I would point you if you want a cool John Lennon book. I would go Mind Games. There's been a bunch of documentaries that have come out the last couple of years about the Beatles, but I'm going to pull out Beatles 64 that came out at the tail end of 2024. Really interesting look at the first time the Beatles came to America. I know there's a lot of footage out there. I know it's been talked about to death, but I really like this doc. It has a different feel, a different angle to it. It has kind of a look at what the Beatles meant to the American culture at that time. A lot of great guest stars in this one. If you haven't seen this one, it's a really cool doc, Beatles 64. And now a book that I have to mention because a lot of people don't know about this book. It's kind of under the radar book. It came out on a small publishing company. I don't think it got the attention that a big book would get. It's called The Beatle Who Vanished, and it's the story of Jimmy Nicol, written by Jim Berkowitz, the rock and roll detective. He wrote a really cool book called Mysteries in the Music. That's in the archives if you want to go back and listen to that episode. But this book is about Jimmy Nicol, who filled in for Ringo Starr early on in the Beatles' career for about a week. He actually played drums for the Beatles. Ringo got sick with laryngitis. Tremendous story of who this man was. And not only that, what happened to him after he played that week with the Beatles. After he became the fifth Beatle for a moment, there's so much to his story. And Berkowitz does such a great job of unpacking it. Really cool book. The Beatle Who Vanished, the story of Jimmy Nicol. Let's talk some Grateful Dead. Always loving talking Grateful Dead. And a book that came out a couple months ago, I'm going to spotlight here. It's called Loud and Clear, and it talks about the Grateful Dead's Wall of Sound. The author who wrote this, his name is Brian Anderson, and he actually got a chance to purchase a piece of the Wall of Sound, a cabinet from the Wall of Sound, and this kind of spurred him into looking into more about the Wall of Sound. And this book covers everything you need to know about the Grateful Dead till up right around 1974. It's kind of like going on tour with them because it breaks down a lot about their sound and what they were going through and how they were trying to perfect their sound and how they actually built PA system. Really cool book, very different angle about the Grateful Dead, called Loud and Clear. The next recommendation I have for you that came out last year is The Silver Snarling Trumpet, and that is Robert Hunter's early memoir, I guess you can call it, about meeting Jerry Garcia and getting involved with the Grateful Dead. Very interesting book in the way that it's written. It's kind of like a Jack Kerouac kind of book because it was written way back in the early 60s. So this is an actual document of what Hunter was writing at the actual time when he was meeting Jerry Garcia. It's really kind of a sacred document. This thing was lost for some time, and his wife found it in his attic after he passed away. The Silver Snarling Trumpet, really interesting document about the first moments of the Grateful Dead. Let's do a little Bruce Springsteen, and I have to start with the book that this new movie that is coming out is based on. It's called Deliver Me From Nowhere, and it's written by Warren Zanes. It won the Rock Talk Studio Book of the Year award in 2023, and it well deserved it because it is a tremendous look at Springsteen's recording of the Nebraska album. Zanes gets a chance to talk with Bruce. He gets a chance to visit the apartment house that Springsteen rented when he wrote Nebraska. Very detailed, very haunting. Just a very interesting time in Springsteen's career, and Zanes was able to really open it up and look at all the different aspects of what was going on there and how he made this very different record. Love this book. Can't wait to see the new movie called Deliver Me From Nowhere. That's the name of this book also by Warren Zanes. A book came out a couple of months ago that was really good in regards to Springsteen's too. It looks at the 50th year anniversary of Born to Run, but it's not a kind of retrospective. This one's called Tonight in Jungleland, and it's written by Peter Ames Carlin, who wrote the great REM book. The name of this band is REM, that came out last year. But with Tonight in Jungleland, you get to see how Springsteen came off that second album and took that huge leap in writing Born to Run, and you get to see how Born to Run was written, how Jungleland was written, how She's the One was written, how all those great songs on that record came together, what he went through to put that record together, how crazy that scenario was. And it was kind of a do or die situation for Bruce as they were looking to terminate his recording contract if he didn't come up with a big hit. He delivers him Born to Run, and the rest is history. I'm going to veer a little bit off of Bruce, but stay in the Springsteen world and talk a little bit about Little Steven, because he came up with a couple of really cool things over the last 2 years that I want to mention. One is his book, his memoir, which is great. If you want to read a real character, a real champion for rock and roll, who's lived a crazy life, the Little Steven memoir is tremendous. And then the documentary called Disciple is also really good, where you get kind of the visual side of his memoir, a lot of great early footage with the Disciples of Soul. So there's some really cool Little Steven stuff out there to kind of round out the Springsteen recommendations. Okay, going to end the show with my favorite artist of all time, and that's Bob Dylan. If you listen to the show, you know I love Dylan. And if you're a first-time listener, welcome in. I hope you're enjoying the Greatest Hits show, the recommendations I've got for you today. So for Bob Dylan, you've got to go with Mixing Up the Medicine. This book was put together by the Bob Dylan Center, and it features pictures and texts of archived, never-before-seen things that is in the Bob Dylan Center. Every page, you've got something new, something astonishing, something amazing to take a look at and then to read about. It's a big coffee table style book. The pictures are fantastic. It makes you want to go to the Bob Dylan Center like right now. It just really gives you the back room look of what is there and how tremendous that center must be. I haven't gotten there yet. I know I can't believe it, but I will definitely be there one day. And I'm going to leave you with a different look at Bob Dylan. It's called Song and Dance Man by Michael Gray. And Michael Gray knows Bob Dylan inside and out. And that's what this book does. It covers his career like no Dylan book I've ever read before. It is very, very, very detailed. So if you are a huge Dylan fan, I would point you in this direction. Song and Dance Man by Michael Gray. All right, that wraps up this Greatest Hits show. I hope you enjoyed all these recommendations from these artists. Next week, I've talked about two famous brothers today, the Allman Brothers. Next week, I'm talking on the story of two other famous brothers in rock and roll who just put together one of the largest comeback reunion tours of 2025. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love talking rock and roll with you. Don't forget to sign up to win that Iron Maiden book. Just go into the show notes and you can follow the link to subscribe to the newsletter. That will put you in for the drawing of the new Iron Maiden Infinite Dreams. All right, let's tear it down, pack it up, and head on down the road. I'll see you next time in the Rock Talk studio.